Hi everyone, good morning and good evening and good afternoon wherever you're joining from. Thanks for joining our session 27. So this is session on balancing best practices and customer demands, tackling excessive customization in Dynamics 365 projects. So we are doing this on 27th session of D365 UGME, and I'm joining from Dubai, and along with me, Bilur is also there. And today's agenda is we'll be introducing our group and showing you past sessions and doing the speaker introductions. And we'll show you how the impact of excessive customization in D365 projects is there and how to handle that and challenges. And at the end, we'll take the Q&A. And views expressed in this are from the speakers and do not represent from the employers or Microsoft. Contests or demo data and lab environments are used for the events. Any recommendations coming out of the session should not be applied directly to production and should be tested in sandbox. This session will be recorded on Teams, and if you do not consent to be part, it is the right time to disconnect. So rowing our group, so you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and our website. So we are 1,400 plus members and globally and increasing. And this group is supported by me and along with me, Umesh, and two more volunteers are also supporting me, Anita and Tim. And if you want to see us our past sessions, you can access that from here. And all our past sessions are uploaded onto our YouTube channel. And today's session is on balancing best practices and customer demands, tackling excessive customization in Dynamics projects. So it's me. So this is Venkatesh joining from Dubai, and I have 10 plus years of experience on Dynamics 365, and I manage this user group, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. You can reach out to me on my LinkedIn page as well. Along with me, I have Bilur. She is approachable on that email ID, and she is Microsoft BizApps application MVP, and she's also a MCT, and she is a community super user. She's also a D365 F&O app solution architect, and she is reachable on LinkedIn. Over to you, Bilur.
Okay. Is it okay that I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Oh, perfect. Okay. First, welcome everyone. And as has been told, that I've been around as an MVP, MCT, and so much more. Okay. I have been doing this job for 20 years. I have been in the projects more than 40 projects now. I'm now in the customer side. But before, I have been a consultant for 20 years almost. I have almost done everything. But my main issue is about the finance part, but it doesn't mean that I know the production, SCM, or the other parts. But in the end, yes, I've been a solution architect. I will tell you what a solution architect is in the end and what we do. And also, I have been in some projects that I manage as a project manager as well. But today, our main topic is about balancing best practices and customer demands and how we need to manage the excessive customizations. Okay, so as you may know or you have faced that the expectations and requirements are very two different things. So you can expect something, but you may require something else and may happen very differently. As you can see in the first picture, that you have expectations and what you have in the reality. When you start a project, okay, you say that, okay, well, it's not an hardware, because in the hardware selling, you know what you will have. So if you are going to buy a phone or a server or something, okay, you know what you will get. But if it's in software, you can only guess and you hope that it's better than what you use. But in the reality, you can have less, or you may want to have more functionalities which you are never going to use or never going to need, and reality you may have less requirements, very easy processes, and depending on how your company is big or not. So you should consider that when you go into a project to have the expectations and then see if they are really, really needed, really, really required or not. So as you can in the second picture, that if you come up with too many requirements, with too many expectations in the projects, in the reality in the project, you will be facing too many issues, like you have to consider the bugs, process testings. It's not about, you know, the developments, but it's about the requirements, and then you will certainly become into a world that you would not like to be in. But we will go into the detail now. So it's not that easy, I know. So let's come up. We always say that, okay, it's customer demands, it's user demands, so they need it. So we always say they, them. But rather than that, I think we should use in a project the sentence, start the sentences and use the sentence as we. Because when you do a project, you are not doing the project by yourself, or they are not doing their project by themselves. So we are doing the project. In the real life, you can say that we are also customers in different intervals. When you go to a restaurant, when you go to a shop to buy something, you are a customer. You may have great expectations. For example, when you buy a phone, you always want to have too many functionalities on that phone as well, which you will never use. I do the same. Believe me. I have the latest version of a phone, but I do not use any of this functionality, rather than calling and rather than you going into some social media thing as well. So you can have lots of expectations as in the real life. So in a project, you should say, okay, it's not you, it's not the customers, it's not the users, but we are doing this project. So we should be all together, achieve what is good for us. So we and us mentality is very critical and important in the projects. Even if you are not working in a consultancy firm, but you are in the customer side, in the IT management, you should always have the same mentality. Even if you are in the customer side as an IT employee, you can say that they are, we are the customers, and we have to listen, understand, and feel what is needed. So this is a critical part that you would like to start into a project. So we say that excessive developments, excessive changes. So I asked, what is excessive? Excessive that you think may not be excessive for the other side, because people may need different things according to their history, according to their past, according to their visions as well. So you may very easily mix up the term excessive with the real needs or the capabilities or so. So I asked Copilot and say that, okay, Copilot, tell me. Copilot is a tool, maybe you know that, Microsoft, that helps us, by the name, of course, it's the Copilot, and it's an AI tool that helps us to understand what's going on. So it would be shame not to mention AI in any of the meetings. So now I use the AI. I believe AI is very good, but I think that people management is also very important. This is why we are. But let's continue with the reply of Copilot, because I really like the answer. So let's read together. So excessive requirements typically refer to demands or specifications that go beyond the actual needs of the business or the scope. So this excessive needs, that requirements, could be the beyond needs of the business, all right, or the scope of the project. You can still need that for the business, that need, but may not be in the scope. Or there are some needs that you want to use it, but it's not related to the business, and it's just done because you need it, okay? So what will happen if we do these excessive requirements, developments, that you can say that these can lead to unnecessary complexity, increased costs, or delays of the implementation, of course. So let's go with the examples that might be considered as excessive. Like, for example, this is something that we really like in the projects because we can do it in Dynamics, is over customization. So in the end, we start adding too many custom features. There will be too many developers that are being using on that project, or there can be some unrealistic expectations. This is something that I mostly handle. People will say that, okay, we want this functionality, and when I go with them and say that, okay, are you sure? Can you do it? We can do it in Dynamics, of course, or we can have some customizations for doing it, but in real life, do you really do that? For example, you want to use the batch functionality on the inventories to track your inventory, but I'm asking in the end, do you use this batch mentality in real life so you can separate the stocks and batch? Some things come to your ear better. You say, okay, batch is a wonderful thing that I can use in my company, but you should ask yourself, okay, can you do it in the real life? What do you do it in your real life, or what you will do in the future in your real life? Will you be able to do it? The other one is the lack of prioritization. So there was a wonderful comics that I read. I laugh a lot. I'm not laughing at because I see the customers as customers, because we are the customers as well. So it's the we. But they say, okay, we are customers. What do we want? Everything. When do we want it? Now. So the lack of prioritization is something like that. So you have to prioritize what you need as well, looking at your project plans, and then if you need it or not, which is critical, which is go live critical. You may hear this very much, and this will overwhelm. Is it in the budget? Is it do I have people to do it, or do I have time to do it, and if I have money to do it as well? So it's lack of prioritization is about that. And the scope creep, of course, if you start adding your new requirements during the project without proper evaluation or adjustment, then you will have issues with the resources, of time, of man, of money, or whatever. So these are the things that we would like to avoid. So this is what we call excessive. Excessive means that theoretically the things that are beyond actual needs, and business or scope of the project. So in this case, what we should do is that we should say no, right? No, and you should not say no. Because, you know, when you go to a shop and you ask for something, maybe it's not that wise to ask for that thing in that shop. And then you have the answer directly as no. What do you feel? So it's very important how you say the no. And do not say no if in the end you or someone else will say yes. So you have to be considering everything when you say no to the users, to the customer side, and etc. So in this case, let's go with the easy solution and say yes. No, we cannot say yes to everything, because I've tried this way as well. So I was always criticized that I'm saying too much no to the users. And then they say that, okay, Billur is saying too many no's, and in another project I start saying yes to everything that user wants. And then in this case, I have been criticized of saying too many yeses, right? So it's not correct to say no, and it's not correct to say yes. So what should we do? What we should do is that we need to be sure about the requirements. So what are the requirements? When we go and have the requirements, ask for them, we need to determine feasibility of requirements. So I took these from the documentation of the Microsoft. In Microsoft documentation, when you would like to be a solution architect or so, you need to read these documentations, and also will help you in the future again and again, and that will remind you how you should manage the processes. So for these processes, there is a huge documentation in Microsoft sites that you can use. So I have this information directly from Microsoft Learn, basically, about how to be managing the requirements. So it's very important that you have determined the feasibility. So can we do it? Okay, so it is very important thing that we need to discuss. If that is not feasible to use, it's not going to be used, then there's no need to consider this one as a requirement. Then we say that if people will use this feature, as I have mentioned before, there are lots of things that has been developed and that will require maintenance and then not to be used. So they're thrown into the trash. Okay, and so when you go into the system, you see lots of codes, and in the upgrades, no one knows what it is for, and then you have to take it out or leave it as it is. But in every upgrade, then it becomes a pain. Not about the coding part. Yes, in the coding part is very critical as well, but also in the functionality part. So when you go into the project, they say, okay, we want to have these workflows, and we would like general manager to approve every order. And in the when you go live, maybe in the first and 2 days, everything goes to a general manager to be approved. But when you see that in the end, the secretaries approve, and then you have to remove the approval because it's not meaningful that each of the documentation to be approved by the general manager. What you can do is that, okay, general manager to approve from a point, from a value beyond this amount. Okay. And another one during the requirements is to assess if the feature is technically feasible. It can be feasible requirement, and it may be going to be used, but if it's technically feasible, so it's very important as well. So as a person, you have to go, if you have that technical knowledge, you can answer. If not, you have to have support from the technical team if it's feasible. And I always advise to check it first. Okay, so to be sure that it can be done. So if you say, okay, we will do it, and then in 1 or 2 days later you come up with the idea that it's not technically feasible, then you will have that trust from the users lowered on yourself. So and you do not have too many chances from the user's eyes to change your mind. So you have to be sure that you are saying yes or no correctly and make less mistakes to be more trustworthy. You have to evaluate if the process is visible or overlooked. So not everything is about technical availability or user availability or so, but you need to check if the process is feasible as well, as I have mentioned in the batch using. If it's technically feasible, if you may have made it in some other customers or users or projects, it doesn't matter. If it's very important that if that company that you are working with can feasibly process that information. And also for the requirements, you need to be sure if that requirement is verifying the regulatory rules, laws, and if it's against or within the rules and the laws. So it's a very basic thing that you need to consider. So some projects starts with list of requirements. So when you should start collecting the requirements, okay, there are some detailed requirements that comes up the project, but I think the requirements should be ready before even the sign up of the project. So people should go look in themselves, in their company, and be sure what they really want and needs to be documented. So in the first phase of the project, before in the sales part, also the main needs of these requirements should be listed. I'm not saying that, okay, we want to have a budget model. Sure, you will have. Not to say that, okay, we would like to be able to manage our vendors. So this is not defining a requirement. So you have to go a little bit more into detail, or else what will happen is that you will be having very huge problems during the projects, because developments or that excessive demands come up with the requirements. If you do not document it, then there will be too many issues. And most of the people think that doing an ERP project helps you do the ERP. No, that's a huge problem. ERP projects are software projects, actually. And doing an ERP is mostly about how you manage your business. So if you do not do ERP within your business, then it will be hard that you use the ERP softwares. For example, if your finance department is fighting with your accounting department, then the accounting department will not enter the invoices. And then in the end, as a finance department, you will not be able to do the payments. In this case, what's the point to use a software as ERP, right? So this is very critical, how you manage your processes. Also, as been documented here, defining the requirements is very, very critical. Missing process steps that are discovered too late is very problematic issue. And what you can do is to use a change management for this purpose. But what is ideal is to have this before need to use the change management. Of course, in the project, you always use the change management. We cannot lie that nothing changed during the projects. For example, in the projects, if they are taking like a year, 9 months or so. So always you will need a change management. But what's critical is that the critical steps need to be decided before starting a project. Also, misinterpretation of the requirement by parties who aren't experts in the related project. This is why it's very critical to have the key users and decision of the key users. In most of the projects, what we face is that the people that you talk with do not know the details of the process, or they are not experts, or so. What happens is that then while she doesn't know what she is doing, may this guide you. This is also a very important thing. So in this case, you can say that, okay, you may know it, you may have experienced it before, so you can go with asking detailed questions. Or another thing that may happen in the project, if the user is not expert enough, in each meeting you need to face with different people as well. So he may say, okay, I will come up with this person and he will explain to you. So and this will really hurt the project. Another one is that we always face that lower business engagement in the project. So mostly you have this issue. Okay, we have 1 hour, but I have some real life business to do. So I have to go there. Can we do it 30 minutes? Or can I say, okay, I will not come now. Or I cannot read what you have written, what you have sent to me, because I have real life business issues. So in the project, it's very critical that it's been mentioned to users, key users, every project people, that implementing an ERP project is also a real life thing. Okay, so it's very critical to be sure that everybody is also attending the projects and also is capable to do their daily processes as well. Another one is that the longer review cycles, because the requirements and designs are not clear. So if you are not so sure that the design is clear or requirements are not clear, then you may need to ask too many questions. So it's very important that the person that is facing with the requirements should be an expert as well. And also the person that has these requirements is sure that the requirements come from the company, the processes, but not from him or herself. So what we should do is that we need to categorize the requirements. Okay, we have lots of requirements, 100, 200, 1000 requirements that come up to us. And we say, you should never say, okay, this cannot be done, this can be done in the first step. You need to check out what's going on with these requirements. Even every simple requirement may be critical in the future. So you need to evaluate them. How we evaluate is that first we categorize these requirements. So we say that, okay, what's the severity? Okay, so we should say, is it a gap? Is it a fit? So when we have this requirement, they say, okay, this can be configured in AX, or we do not need to configure, but this process has already been in Dynamics. Or you can say, okay, this process may not be 100% fit to Dynamics, so there is a gap here. So you have to be sure the severity of the requirement. Okay. In the end, the goal should be to be sure that that need can be covered by out-of-box. Okay. And then the second categorization is the level of effort. So you should be sure that to be able to do that requirement, even though if it's a fit, okay, how much time or how much effort, it cannot just be the time, but it could be the man hours or so, should be required. So you can say that, okay, this is medium, high, or could be a rating between 1 to 10. It depends on the project. You will decide together. So it's very important that you categorize the level of the effort and the priority. Prioritization is very critical as well. So what we do normally in our daily lives as well. So you have to go into an exam next day and you have to clean your house. So if you clean your house, okay, and do not study for an exam that is in the next day, okay, then you will fail the exam. So prioritization in the projects are the most critical. Or what we do is that, for example, there are 100 requirements. We do the easy ones, okay? And in the end, for example, next month we say, okay, through 100 requirements, we do the 80. We can now create the invoice from the system, which is a fit, for example, but in the end you will say, but there needs to be some customization on the order creation, so we cannot create the sales order. So how can they test it if they cannot create an order? The prioritization should be first to be able to create the order and then to invoice. So in the second monthly meeting, you say that, okay, now we are able to do 85% of the 100 requirements. And they say, okay, in the first month, you say that you have done the 80. And the second month, you say that you can only be able to do the 5 of them. And this is very critical. So you should prioritize and start doing the ones that has the priority, especially for the go live. And these things needs to be, so you can say that, okay, this is not priority, but could be changed within the project as a priority as well. So you can recategorize these requirements time to time in the projects. And also you need to add the implementation notes. So you can say, okay, this is priority, this is because what I think, it's not it's in the low priority, and so, but it doesn't matter. You have to have more details on the requirements rather than adding them as a line. To manage all of these, that of course, you need a solution architect. So there are different roles in a project. You may think that this should be managed by the project manager. Yes, time to time, these are being managed by the project managers, but the thing is that all of these needs to be done by the solution architect. So what is a solution architect? What is a project manager? What is a senior consultant? What is a junior consultant? And do we really need all of them? Yes, because they have different roles. Project manager may not require to know the processes, but to know project management. The solution architect doesn't require to manage the budget or so, but needs to know everything. Senior consultant supports solution architect and does the business. And junior consultants usually helps senior consultants like in the data uploads and so. So it's very critical to have all of them. If you do not have a junior consultant in a project, mostly the users, the customers do not want them. But it's very critical because junior consultants have helped senior consultants to concentrate on very critical processes while they are also learning. But the solution architects are very different than the senior consultants, because senior consultants can be focused on the one thing, but the solution architect doesn't. Solution architect need to know everything. Now I'm coming to that point. So also in Microsoft documentation that the solution architect should be a trusted advisory. A dynamic solution architect is a professional responsible for designing, implementing, and overseeing solutions using Dynamics 365 and related technologies. So this is very critical. It's not only saying Dynamics 365. And you know, in Dynamics 365, we do not just have F&O or project or human resources, okay? We also have the Power Platform objects. Or also you need to know the related technologies. So I will come to that point. What is related technologies? So a solution architect role involves ensuring that the solution meets both current and future business needs. So we cannot say, okay, you will do it in the future, so this is excessive, so we do not need to do that. No. As we have mentioned in the excessive part, the future business needs are not excessive unless they will not be used or they cannot be done in a process-wise or so. So solution architects of Dynamics work closely with the stakeholders to understand the requirements. This is where we comes. So you cannot say, what are your needs? What do you need? Do you really know? You have to be understandable. You say that, okay, what do we need for this process? How we are going to manage? Are we sure that we need it? Are we sure that it's easy to manage? So you have to understand their requirements as they are your requirements. And of course, as a solution architect, you have to propose a solution. So yes, you understand the requirements, but you cannot solve that. No. Somehow, some way, you need to solve, you need to propose a solution. This way or that way. Okay? And then you have to guide the implementation process. So you are a guider. So you work closely with the teams as a consultant, as a project manager, and then feed every part for the implementation of the process. You have to go to the users and to be sure that every process is going smooth. So you have responsibilities in the project. And you have to design solutions tailored to business needs. You can integrate Dynamics 365 with other systems like ISVs. So as we said that we have to know the related technologies, that we know the ISVs as well. So you can say, okay, this banking solution, for this banking solution, I know that there are 3 ISVs most commonly used, and they have these functionalities, and you may check the ISVs if they really fit your solution. So you need to come up with those kind of solutions as well. For example, okay, we can manage this one in the Power Platform with a Power Apps. Or for this solution, we can use Power Pages. It's easier to be developed directly in the Power Pages or Power Apps, so we do not need to do this one in Dynamics. Or we can say, okay, for the reporting tool sets, we can use Power BI. So it depends to the need, of course. If we need to make a development directly in Dynamics FNO or SCM or wherever, or we need to integrate. And also, you need to be sure of the scalability and performance. So you can say that, okay, we want this, we will implement that solution, and in the end, it takes ages to post an invoice. For example, for each invoice, it takes 1 minute to post with that solution, with that development. It could either be a process, it could either be a customization, it doesn't matter. But if the user has, the company has 100,000 invoices a day, and each of them takes a minute because of the customization or the solution that you offered, or an ISV, whatever, then it would not be a good solution. So you should be sure that it's scalable and you do not have any issues with the performance. And also, you have to collaborate with the teams and address technical and business challenges. This team is not your internal team, so it's not like only the project manager, not like only the senior consultant, but also you have to go with the users, key users, technicals, and with your experience, tell them, okay, you can have this functionality, but technically you will face this issue. It may have performance issues. You may have some business challenges because that your internal team, as far as I see, has some issues together, so you will not be able to manage it. So you have to have that solution. So it's very important when you address a challenge, in the end, as a solution architect, you have to solve every step. For this purpose, what I offer is to read, watch, and learn. So you can read from Microsoft documentation what's new, not just about the Dynamics 365 FNO or project or human resources, but also the Power Platform, also the documentation of the ISVs. You can watch and different channels. There are lots of fast track, for example, documentation, or groups like this group has very good videos that has been shared with you. And every day, as a solution architect, you have to add a value to yourself because everything is changing in Dynamics world. So you have to be up to date. So learning is a process that you need to face to become a solution architect.
And
so
just to take up what happens, how you manage this multiple solutions, it's also important to manage your customizations, right? So whenever you do this customization, okay, the customer has asked and you have done that customization. And when the next release happens, there is a particular code which is affecting yours. So that is where it is very critical for a solution architect to go through that process. And what is the new release? and what the new feature is and what we have developed and how do we address this. So it is the role of a solution architect to understand that level of detailing and give the proper solution and change it. So always the customizations have this challenge to manage it. So more than development side, the managing is the most critical part of the solution. So it is the solution architect has to plan this way. Okay, what is the workaround we have to do to manage this? Okay, where is the SOPs written for this clarity? Okay, so that is where he has to understand there is no impact on that side of the solution. Okay, and for example, there's a new feature has launched by in Dynamics. Okay, and you have customized it. So check the steps and processes, go in detail and decide which is going to be beneficial for you.
Exactly. What is ideal is to go with the fit. But as mentioned, it may not be possible. Still, you have to consider every requirement and try to fit it a functionality or a sub-functionality that has already been in the system. So if you go with a customization every time, that would be a problem, and it would be a shame if you go with a customization that if that functionality is already be in the system. That happened to me before. But my team was good that mentioned me that the development that I have offered has a solution in Dynamics as well. So, but if I was not warned back then when I was a junior, I was going to make a development for that functionality, which is not required, and in the future, it will affect in every upgrade and needs to be taken care of. So this is very critical. So when we would like to continue that, we say that, okay, we need a solution architect. When you hear it, the naming is good. Not a senior consultant, I'm a solution architect. You can say, but the thing is, how you become a solution architect. So to be a solution architect, you should be discovering the customer needs and understand the requirements. So you need to have that ability to understand the requirement, and every time you have to propose a solution, you need to work with requirements. You need to perform fit gap analysis. This is not something that the senior consultant does, but you do the fit gap analysis and unit certification. So as I mentioned, I'm MVP, MCT, but also a solution architect. I can say that I'm a solution architect because I have Microsoft documentation. You can search which certifications that you need because it depends on the area that you are working with. But you need to have the Microsoft certification to become a solution architect. And of course, certification is very important, but you need to have that experience as well to manage the users, manage the projects, and need to have the knowledge on the system as well. So a solution architect, as we have mentioned, should have functional and technical knowledge. So you cannot say, okay, I just know the FNO, but I have no idea about any integration technologies. I don't know if this is technically feasible or so. So you need to have functional and technical knowledge of Microsoft Power Platform, Dynamics 365 apps, related Microsoft Cloud solutions, and other third-party technologies. So you can say that, okay, you can use this functionality and use into your system, and then be able to proceed with your process. So your key task of solution architect is solution envisioning. Solution architects should be able to facilitate design decisions across development, configuration, integration, infrastructure, security, availability, storage, and change management. So as we said, not just the configurations, not just the developments, also for the integration technologies. You need to know the infrastructure, security. Security is very critical as well. So while you're doing your designing, you need to consider the security infrastructure as well, if it's available, or storage. And for each cases, you should be very good at change management. So in Microsoft documentations, you will be able to reach out what the change management is and how the change management should be applied. Change management is a topic that can be discussed in hours and hours on how to manage in the projects. And when you check the projects, which is not good, is because mostly in not being able to manage the changes. So when you propose a solution, we say that as a solution architect, we have to propose a solution, come up with a solution. So during the pre-sales, as I have mentioned, not in the project, you can create a solution that requires several customizations or extensions that fit the customer's requirements. However, the numerous customizations or extensions can become a technical debt that you will have to pay later, and can often lead to unhappy customers, unhappy users. Okay, because when you go with a customization, even customers do want to have that one, you go to them and okay, you have to have this time testing. And they say that, okay, go with the test results, and there are bad test results, come back to you, you test again and send it. And then they came up with some other new requirements, maybe related to that one as well. So this is something that really needs to be managed. Of course, the project managers do manage that one, but they are managing according to your design, actually. So customizations increase the total cost of ownership. So it's important to set a precedent at the stage, clarifying that given the real cost. So the real cost actually is not the cost that you do at that time. So it's not the cost of developer time or the testing time of the customer, but it's also what you do is that you will take the time of the users as well. You will also take the time of the company as well. So you will have time for the future testings, future upgrades as well. So you should also mention the real cost to everyone. So you will assist the customer in making choices about how to proceed with a particular requirement. For example, typically when you explain a simpler and cheaper approach that is out of box, customer will appreciate your honesty. So for example, the user wants 2 reports, and if you go to Dynamics and say that, okay, we do not have the exact same this 2 reports, but you can have just 1 report in Dynamics that is in the standard that has this information that you require. With a standard, it will be easier for you. There will be no cost, no testing costs, and etc. Yes, you may not have these 2 fields that you have in these reports, but do you really actually need it? Or this is a habit that you have in this company. Or we'll come up with some requirements of the process. Okay, we would like this kind of a workflow, and then you can say, okay, do you really use this workflow? Do you use it for every case? Do you really need it? So you have to be sure that this is not because of a habit that has been done before as a company culture, and if they can change it. So it's not about you offering a solution that is in the system, but you can offer a solution of changing the habits as well. So you can even create some rules around the decision process of making customizations. For example, if the feature takes more than 2 days to configure it, or It doesn't need to be a development, but it could be a configuration. For example, this is required to have a new module to be implemented. Then you can say that, okay, we can do it, but we need to take approval from a CTO or so. You can have this kind of workarounds, because users may come up with too many requirements. Sometimes even they think that is important, but may not be very important for the company's future. Then this kind of needs, requirements can be managed in a higher level as well. So then this kind of approaches will lead greater trust between you and the customer and the users. Also, for example, in one project, I have faced this issue. They come up with a requirement, and Dynamics was not doing that the same process as they do. Okay, so I say, okay, let us I didn't say you should consider. I said, okay, let us consider this one. All right. And I know that Dynamics has a solution for this one, but it does this process like that. Is it okay for you? And it's been said that, no, we cannot do that. I said, are you sure? Can we have support from your legal advisor? They go to the legal advisor and they say, okay, no, we are not able to do this because our legal advisor doesn't agree with you, basically. And I say, okay, can we all together with your legal advisor have a meeting, and I will also ask him if we can do this way or that way, to be sure. I was very sure that in Dynamics we can do the processes, because in 15 projects I have used that way in Dynamics, and if it was not legally possible, they will not agree that as well. So we have set up a meeting together and discuss this together, and in the end, after the meeting, we say that, okay, we can use the Dynamics way. So be sure that you are proposing the correct one according to your experience, but also do not just say no, but come to a solution, have a solution together in the end. So what we have is that we have a greater trust. Back then, they know that I know what I'm doing. I'm not telling things because that it's easier this way. And then we were able to have a wonderful project together. So what is problems with excessive developments? So there are pros and cons. So it's very important, because you need to consider the costs. As we have mentioned, it's not the cost that happens that day that you can have future costs, and you have to do tests. Lots of customization means lots of tests, and you have to give them time to do the tests. And tests are mostly not the correct test that you will face in the production. So it will take some time, and you need to oversolve the problem. Sometimes you want to give more, okay, rather than you have less. So I think you shouldn't oversolve, over-engineer. This is what we call it, over-engineering about the problems. Just solve them with a good way. Okay, I'm not saying that, okay, solve it however it is, don't care about the performance problems, just take the okay, good to go sign from the users, customers. I'm not saying that one. But do not oversolve. Do not give users, customers, screens that looks perfect for you, that looks professional for you, but cannot be used by the users. This mostly happens as well, for example. So do not do the changes and do not change dynamics to something that really looks like the pre-used program that they have. Okay, because this is why they are upgrading to Dynamics, to have more, to have better, or else where there's no need to do the change, right? So with excessive developments, excessive changes, because they said it's the requirements, and have the same reports, have the same forms, have the same processes in Dynamics like they have in their previous program. So don't do that. So this is very critical. Put your feet and say, okay, we can do it this way. I'm not saying that do not create a solution, but be sure that you have an involvement when you are implementing a Dynamics 365. The scope, resource, schedule for the project implementation is very important. So you need to be sure about the costs, time, yes, but if it's not in the scope, you need to go with it with very important change management, or else your project will fail. I'm not saying if it's critical, it come in the last minute, if it's go live effective, that you should say no to that development because or that process change. But in the end, if they cannot proceed with it, if its priority is high level, of course you have to do it, but you have to consider, of course, the project scope as well, and you have to consider the effects of performance, because you know that Dynamics is being checked on performance by professionals, and not just one, tens, hundreds, thousands, I don't know, but it has already been tested. It has been implemented in lots of thousands of companies. So when you do a development, you may not foresee the performance unless you go live. So it needs to be tested, and it's not, the performance testing is not an easy thing. And writing a code that has performance, because you may not be sure about the capabilities of the developer, so development cannot be made, can change from person to person. So how to manage this process? That you have to be in collaboration. You have to be collaborating everything. You need to coordinate very correctly. Coordination skills of the solution architect is important, and communication skills is very important for every party. You should be trustful. You should always give feedbacks time to time. Do not stop giving the feedback. So you can go to users and say, okay, we say this, and be trustful. Okay, so as we said, a solution architect is trusted advisory. So feedbacks will help us. You can make mistakes, admit your mistakes. Okay, so it's fine. Everybody can make mistakes. Just not make it a habit. But at least give those feedbacks to the users, and in the end, no matter what, you have to solve it. So for the gaps in solutions, there are, how do you understand something is a gap, or if there is a solution? So these are the questions that needs to be asked when the requirement comes. So user comes to you with a requirement, and then you say, what are the business requirements that need to be met with the gap solution? What's the business processes or processes that the solution will support? What's the approach to fill this gap? What are the solution details? Do certain risks need to be considered with this approach? Risks are very critical in this case. Do dependencies exist on other solution components? Do we have any dependencies? For example, the invoicing process, there's an invoicing process requirement, but for this one, we will be able to create the order, right? If the order is not being created, then if we make a development on the invoicing process, what's the point? So the dependencies are very important. The performance effects need to be considered. The storage impacts need to be considered. Does the solution add complexity to the business process? Users may the customer may want some solutions that are very complex. Can we solve more easier way? So we have to ask these questions to the requirement. And what other solutions have been considered? So is there any other solutions rather than the customization that you need to do? So you have asked these questions to that requirement, and you have to review each gap and the solution, not just the gap, but also solution. You have to document it. So you have to document this short description of the requirement and the gap and the solution, the business process that the gap solution will support, where the gap exists, or whether it's standard gap or in the platform or a gap in ISV. So it's if it's in Dynamics 365 or ISV or Power Platform or whatever. The solution type, how you will solve it, if it requires a custom extension, independent software, which is an ISV, or so on. Description of the proposed solution to fill that gap. Of course, you have to write how you will solve it. Indication of whether a proof of concept of the proposed solution has been completed or not. So before you offer a solution, it would be good that you show people a proof of concept. So you do a proof of concept, and in the meantime, they will see if there is another way to solve and decide if it's a really a requirement with a gap or not. So here, proof of concept is very critical thing that you need to do with the users and the customers. The level of effort that you need to document for the proposed solution, type of business impact that needs to be considered, and then level of risks. So risks should be documented as well. So there is this kind of a table that you can find in Dynamics documentation of how requirements can be seen. As you can see, you can have the title assigned to description. This is not just for the gaps, for also fits that you can use. Acceptance criteria is very critical. In the end, what do we need this requirement to be fulfilled? If there's a workaround, business justification, business impact, architect comments, so you can put your comments on that one, disposition type, priority, potential ISV, requirement type, as we have discussed what type of requirement that it is, complexity, stage, category, and effort. This is just a sample. You can create the tables, you can add some columns as well according to your needs. For example, the title is the Migrate Customer Master Data. So assigned to John Doe. You can have here a description and say that the objective is to migrate all customer related data, including contacts and etc. in Dynamics 365. You can have workarounds. You can say that its priority is high, its risk is medium, because it's high if you do not have customers. What would you do? Risk is medium because you can solve it with standard probably. Requirement type is data migration. Complexity is very complex because there could be too many customers or too many detailed information on that one. And of course, the effort will be 40 hours. Well, it's a little bit high, but okay. So For gap solution design, what you have to do is that you have to do the documentation. So documentation is very critical on the projects. You have to do the meetings time to time. It could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be in quarterly meetings. And in the end, you have to document everything. So after you do your meetings and collect the requirements, you have to go with the design documentation. So you can have gap solution documents. Gap solution documents are the documentations that include details on proposed solutions that have been identified to fill existing gaps. Then you have fit gap analysis. Fit gap analysis are not just for the gaps, but also for the fits. So you have to document providing details on the functional areas in the business process that have been identified as not supported by the standard system. You have functional design documents, FDDs, that I really like to document. Documentation that describes the planned features that are included in customizations. You have technical design documents, documentation that describes in detail the design of the planned solution. Business process diagrams are very critical and mostly not used on most of the projects, but I think the business process diagrams should come just before that you start off the projects, that the company knows how they proceed. So if not, you can create together as we. So business process diagrams that can add context to the process catalog and describe the operation of the business. So you will be able to see end-to-end how the process goes, and integration diagrams that you can use, that if there are any integrations in together, so when you deploy the solution, you will need that documentation. So how we decide? Decision is something very critical. We are not artificial intelligence, but we are pure. We have pure intelligence. I don't know how we should say it, but decision making is something that is very critical in human brain. So to make a decision making, we have to ask these questions and make these decisions in ourselves, I think. So you have to define the success areas. Okay, by doing this process, what is the success? If it's going to be a fail, what should fail? So it should be process focused. It should not be something that she wants, he wants. That processes should be the main bone of the project. The company should stay as the main bone of the project. So you have to keep on track. You can have various meetings together that has been planned, and to show how we are, where we are, and etc. You need to give feedback. You have to go with the communication. It's also very critical, I think, to have that link between the users, customers, and yourself. And you have to point out where the pain is. So is it pain of the process? Is it pain with the communication between the teams? Is it the pain of the company culture or so? So you need to be sure where the pain is. And it's really needed. This is very important. Or just there are 100 reports that we have in our former system, and we would like all these 100 reports to be in here, and say, okay, are you going to use it? Are you using it? Or can we just group it? Some reports may have the same information again and again, so this needs to be discussed. Is it a fit or gap? Is it in the project plan? I think this is a good question. So yes, we will have a plan, but it's changed. So, or it's not documented in the plan. For example, you do not have budget in the project plan, budget module. And you say now that we want to have the budgeting module. You can say, we need change management, and say, okay, then we do not have this functionality anymore, and we would like to replace with the budget. So this needs to be discussed. Effects will be discussed, and then of course change management can be done. Can be managed somehow. Can it be managed out of the system? Maybe. Can it be managed by changing the process? Can be managed by third parties. This needs to be discussed, and you need to do as is and to be business process mapping. What we are, what we want to be after this project. So as I mentioned, sometimes you may say that, okay, we want to be there in 5 years, but is it really feasible? So for most of all of the projects, I can say that I use the way to follow as Success by Design. I advise you to use and read documentation in Success by Design. This is Microsoft documentation on how you can correctly manage projects. So as a solution architect, you need to offer a solution, but it's okay that you know how to process a project. So you need to consider business processes, explore the feasibility requirements, refine requirements from proof of concept. Insights, as we mentioned, you have to do the proof of concepts before you decide. Perform fit and gap, and evaluate Dynamics 365 apps to meet requirements. Evaluate third-party apps and use alternative solutions. So customization comes in the end. Customization decision, especially if it requires a development, should come to an end. So let's go with the best practices. So as a best practice, as we have mentioned, what are the best practices can be, is that to identify solution components, develop, and then validate the proof of concept. Of course, you still need to do. Identify potential third-party components, recognize strengths and weakness in a solution, documentation and change management, and use a system to track, preferably Azure DevOps. So in the projects, I usually use Azure DevOps. This is an environment that you are easily be able to track down every step of the project, and users or customer does also see it. You can assign to them, to yourself, to everyone in the project that you do together. So everybody will see everything. So we'll have the strength to know what's going on the project. And so it's not like emails being shared. There are some Excel is a wonderful tool, but it's something that could be lost in the track. So to be kept in the track, use a system to track, and it could be any tool, but I preferably use Azure DevOps as well. But sometimes no is a no in the end. So if that customization, even if it's required, but not in the scope, or it's not required, but keep to be asked, just to mention that it should not be go live or process critical. It could be forgotten. And as I said, people are people and people can make mistakes. But sometimes you really need to say no. To be able to say no, you should have a clear communication. So you need to be a trusted advisory, and you need to do whatever it takes not to break hearts, because we are people and we have feelings. And so we need to be sure that we are doing things in sake of business, not for ourselves, not for anything. Okay, so yes, sometimes no is a no, and you can say no when it's really, really required. As I say, for you to be able to say no to excessive customizations, you have to be trustworthy, you have to be reasonable, you should not say no to everything that comes to you as you think that it's excessive, because know that you do not know the processes like the user that does do, so they know better. You may have experience on that sector, it's fine. You can give them the correct solution, what you have seen before, but you have to be reasonable. You cannot say, okay, this is not in the scope, this is not go live critical, so this cannot be done. So it's not like something that you always win. So it should be a win-win, because win-win is for we. And you need to be understanding. Sometimes users or customers may be like you, unreasonable. So you have to be in an understanding position. So you have to understand the feelings and act accordingly. You have to evaluate correctly. This is why we used the documentations, the table that I've showed you, so you can evaluate for yourself and give them to the users, to the customer, and then they can evaluate. You can discuss. There's no one way, one correct way. So you can always discuss these evaluations. Be open to them. Why you think that this is it is, and do communicate with them. Have meetings. You can have use every communication channels to be open with everyone, not to be open just with the users. Be open with the project management, be open with the your consultants, your developers. So this will really have a good effect. And don't be afraid to say no. So don't take excessive customizations if you think that it will be a pain for now or in the future. So how you should say no is that you need to document everything. I know some of the projects are not very well documented, and people may hate to create document or read a document, but in the end, you need to guide yourself with the documentations. It should not be critical and evaluated openly. So you cannot say, okay, you are not able to create the order as it is. This is what it is. You may not use it, but the system, but it's fine. You cannot say that. So it's must not be critical and it should be evaluated openly. Projects should be wisely managed. So sometimes there's nothing that you can do, and you will need the help of the project team. I'm not saying that you're project manager. I'm saying that the project team all together, with all the people involved, like the project manager, CTO, CFOs, or whatever. So it should be wisely managed. That you should not face anyone one-to-one. Do not have that conflict to have to argue with one-to-one. So the project is for the company, for the process, for the business processes. So be sure that everyone, rather than one-to-one conflict, to have the same manner. So this is what I mean by saying that project should be wisely managed. And all the parties of the project needs to be involved. So you have to give the responsibility and you have to give the authority. When people make mistakes according to the responsibility, with that authority, and all should be okay. And you cannot say, okay, you go to a user and they say, okay, I want this, but I'm not so sure. Okay, I want to remove this one from the project, but I do not have the authority, but I have the responsibility for this one. I will be taken responsible. So even if we are not going to use this functionality while it's in the scope, we need to do it. So I face this kind of issues as well. So if it's not even a process that has been used while it's in scope, you cannot remove it, and you have to discuss from the upper level. So it's very important that all parties from your side, from the customer side, if you are even working in the customer side, your users are your customers. Do not forget that. And all need to be involved and should do the best for the company. So this is how you need to discuss excessive developments and how you can manage. And if you have any questions regarding to the projects that you have currently or have faced and you would like to share some interesting stories with us, as I have done, I would be glad to hear it from you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Bilur. I think you have given us a lot of insights. So I want to ask one quick question. So how do we handle the excessive customization requirement on a workflow? Okay, right now, many of the customers asks us, okay, I have a workflow, and by using Power Automate, it only solves 80% of it. So the rest 20% is like they wanted to have an approval with attachment on an email. Okay. So how do we handle it? Do we need to customize the complete workflow, or do you recommend to use a standard process?
Okay, what I would offer first is that we need to be sure which functionalities can be managed by the automate, which cannot be. So I would have separated these processes. So I will go with the 80% with the standard processes and should evaluate the 20. If that process can be changed, or do we really need that development? But first, what I will do is that go to the ISV page and search for if there are any ISVs. So there is also a documentation in Microsoft site that tells you how to evaluate an ISV, and it's also very important. And if you are going to go over a Microsoft certification documentation, it's a question. It could be a question. So it's very important that how you evaluate the ISVs, and still if you do not have an ISV for that, then yes, you need to go for the 20, not for all of them, but just for the 20. It depends, but probably for a customization.
Okay, and also at times there are deprecated features from Microsoft, right? So, and we have customers on top of it. How do we handle this?
Okay, so this, for example, this happened to me before, not like the depreciation, but for example, very, very long days before, there is no an import solution in AX. Sorry, I come from 3.0, then have 4.0, 2012, and so. But So what we did was that we were using our own module customization. It was a good module, but then a couple of years later, we have a new module from Microsoft, landed cost module. So what we do is to start using Microsoft module. Of course, we have a small project for this one to be able to do the proof of concept and do the documentation and etc. But if it's removed, like for example, it depends. So there's no clear question, real answer for that one, because for example, in the old days you can do some inventory transactions from the phones and then it's removed. In this case, still, if that functionality is removed and it's not being supported anymore, first go to Power Platform Object, and then for the ISVs, if it's trusted ISV that you can use, that has been used, there are various rules, like if it's been used before, or if the company is trusted company, and so and then yes, if it's a customization. So there's nothing else that you can do.
Yeah, and one more question. So we have like additional cost for the ISV. Do you advise on implementing the solution on our own or use the ISV? How do you convince the customers about it?
It depends. Okay, so when you go for an ISV, you need, for example, the banking solution. Okay, I know that there's one wonderful, for me it's wonderful. It depends on the project, but for me, I would offer that banking solution ISV because I've seen that it's been used in very big companies with almost no issues. So I would go with the ISV rather than writing the whole banking solution. But if it's a report, okay, or it's a very simple process, a form, a couple of forms that I can manage easily, and I have that knowledge within myself, then I would not, of course, go for an ISV. But it depends how big the solution is. So when you think sometimes that, okay, I can do it myself with a customization rather than going to an ISV. So when you go for it, and there can be additional new requests that in the end will be more costly to you, because in the ISVs, mostly the ISV makers do have the industry knowledge as well, right? For example, for the banking solutions, they know which banks to use, which type of data will come from the banks as well. Even the users may not know at that point to mention to you. Of course, they know, but they may forget to mention. So if you have an ISV that has been used, you can go to the IF. If there's a new requirement, you can ask the ISV holders and say that, okay, do you have this functionality? And maybe they already have and already been licensed. So as I said, it depends on the project and the requirement.
Yeah. So at times we are using multiple systems as well and customize it, right? So may it be one functionality from CRM, one functionality from Dynamics. So how do you handle that, and how do you recommend to do that?
What I would do, that I will, if we need to check the integration needs. So sometimes requirements may need integrations as well. It's not that simple. Okay, we have this and then do that way. So it still depends on the methodology as well. It depends on the users as well, how they know, how their IT team is, and how the users can handle easily. Sometimes, even though, for example, ERP and CRM are attached together, for some cases, they would not like to use them as attached, so you may need some middleware solutions to manage. Sometimes you do not want them to be attached and come data directly to ERP for some cases. So it really depends. Yeah.
Okay. So any other questions from the audience? You can put it on the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask us as well. We still have some couple of minutes to take up quickly. Okay, that looks good. So thank you so much, Bilur. And if you have any more questions to us, you feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. And she's also available. We have shared the link as well. And please do follow us on our social media. You can ask multiple sessions, and we'll upload this in the YouTube. You'll be able to see that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bilur.
Thank you, Bilur.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks all.
We'll start a couple of minutes for the next session. Thank you.
Yeah.